Hello everyone. Today we are here to discuss the Industrial Relational Code 2020, which is one of the key labor reforms introduced by Indian government. This code aims to simplify, consolidate, and modernize labor law related to industrial relation, trade unions, strikes, and resolution. Before we dive into specific provision and their impact, let's first understand why this code was introduced and what its key objectives are. So, purpose of the Industrial Relational Code 2020. India has a complex and outdated labor law framework which consisted of multiple legislations dealing with industrial relations. Some of the key issues with the older laws included overlapping provision in multiple acts leading to confusion for employer and worker, rigid labor laws that made hiring and firing difficulties for industries, lengthy and inefficient dispute resolution mechanism causing delay in justice for workers. To address these challenges, the government decided to consolidate and simplify multiple labor laws into four new labor codes. The Industrial Relational Codes 2020 is one of these, replacing three major labor laws: the Trade Union Act 1926, the Industrial Employment Act 1946, the Industrial Dispute Act 1947. By bringing all these under one framework, the government aimed to create a more balanced industrial relations system that benefits both worker and employer. Key objective of the relation continuity is simplification of labor law. One of the biggest challenges in industrial relations with dealing with multiple laws that often had overlapping provision. The Industrial Relation Code simplifies this by merging three separate laws into single comprehensive framework, standardizing procedure for trade union, standing orders, and dispute resolution, reducing unnecessary compliance burdens for business, making it easier for companies to follow labor laws without legal confusion. Another major objective of the code is to provide flexibility to industries in managing their workforce. Previously, companies with 100 or more workers needed government approval before laying off employees or closing operations. The new code raises this threshold to 300 workers, making it easier for business to adjust their workforce as needed. Additionally, the code formalizes fixed term employment, allowing companies to have workers for a specific period with the same benefits as a permanent employee, except for severance pay. This helps industries maintain a balance between workforce needed and business sustainability. Then, better dispute resolution mechanism will be under the older law. Industrial dispute often took years to resolve due to lengthy legal processes. The new code introduces several reforms to improve dispute resolution. Establishment of a two-member industrial tribunal to speed up case resolution. Introduction of a conciliation mechanism to resolve dispute before they escalate into strikes or legal battles. Mandatory 60-day notice period before a strike to encourage negotiation and avoid sudden disruptions in industries. By making dispute resolution faster and more structured, the code aims to create a more stable and productive more environment. So, in summary, the Industrialization Code 2020 was introduced to simplify existing labor laws, providing more flexibility to businesses and create a faster, more effective dispute resolution system. Now, let's move on to the next part of the discussion, where we will dive deep dive into the key provision of the code. Somme will covering the impact on workers, including trade unions and strike policies, while Pranam will discuss how the code affect employers' compliance and hiring policies. Soumya, over to you.
Okay. So, coming to trade unions and workers' right under the Industrial Relations Code 2020. So, basically, the Indian labor landscape has been significant reforms over the years to balance the interest of workers and employees. One of the major steps in this direction is the Industrial Relation Code 2020, which consolidates and simplifies earlier labor laws and trades related to unions, strikes, and dispute resolution. The goal of this reform is to promote industrial harmony, streamline dispute resolution, and ensure better worker employer negotiation. Now that we understand why this code was introduced, now let's explore its key provisions and how it affects workers, particularly in the terms of trade unions, strikes, and dispute resolution. Af- After this, Pranav will cover employees' perspective. So, coming to the trade and union recognition. So, like trade unions are the backbone of workers' right, like ensuring their fair wages, safe working conditions, and job security. However, before the Industrial Relation Code, multiple trade unions within a single workspace often has conflicting demands, like making negotiations difficult. This new code streamlines the process of trade union recognition by introducing clear criteria. The first criteria is a single trade union will be officially recognized as the negotiating union if it represents at least 51% of the workers in the establishment. Second one is if no single trade union meets the 51% threshold, then there is a negotiating council will be formed, and this council consists of the representatives from different unions, but each union have at least 20% worker support to be included. This provision prevents multiple unions from competing for influence and ensures that negotiations are structured and productive. This also reduces employer confusion and fosters smoother industrial relation. Now, coming to the rules for strikes and lockouts. One of the most controversial yet significant changes in the new code is the introduction part of the mandatory 60-day notice period for strikes. Let us understand this. Previously, only workers in public utility services like railways, electricity, and healthcare had to give a notice before striking. Now, this rule extends to all industries. Workers must submit a formal strike notice and wait for at least 60 days before initiating any action. If a dispute is under consideration by the tribunal, workers cannot strike during the proceedings or for 700 days after a decision is given. This provision aims to reduce sudden work stoppages, which can cause economic losses and dispute industries. This encourages dialogue and also resolution through legal channels before resorting to strikes. However, critics argue that it makes it harder for the workers to protest, reducing their bargaining power. Now, coming to the workers' protection and the dispute resolution, the new code has also focuses on the speeding up of the dispute resolution and also improving in the workers' protection condition. The existing labor code has been replaced with a two-member industrial tribunal to expedite the case resolution and ensure fair settlements. The conciliation process has been strengthened, promoting negotiation before disputes accelerate into full-blown strikes or lockouts. Fixed-term employees, like the employees who were earlier treated differently and are now entitled to the same benefits as permanent employees, except for retrenchment compensation. This ensures that the employees they receive a fair treatment in terms of wages, working condition, and social security benefits. Overall, these changes aim to protect worker rights, prevent long drawn legal battles, and also promote industrial peace. This covers the key provisions affecting trade unions and workers. While these reforms enhance worker protection, they also introduce new compliance and requirements for the employees. To understand these changes impact industry and business, let's hear from Pranav, who will take us through the employer's perspective. Over to you, Pranav.
Thanks, Soumya. Now let's focus on the Industry Relation Code that affects employers. The government has introduced several provisions to improve ease of doing business, providing flexibility in hiring and streamlined compliance requirements. There are several standing orders which have like there are several rules like which we have to discuss. Earlier, companies with 100 or more workers had to define employment terms under standing orders. The new code increases this threshold to 300. This means companies with fewer 300 workers are exempt from drafting orders, reducing bureaucratic burden. For larger companies with more than 300 plus employees, standing order must clearly define terms related to recruitment, misconduct, termination, and grievances handling. This change provides flexibility to mid-sized businesses while ensuring structured employment policies in large industries. This is the way to bring more and more industry from conventional to non-conventional way. Hiring and termination policies has also been changed. Companies with less than 300 employees can now hire and fire workers without government approval. Fixed term employment has been formalized, allowing companies to hire workers for a specific duration with same benefit as permanent workers except except severance pay. This make it easier for businesses to manage workforce demand without legal hurdles, while ensuring that fixed terms workers are not exploited. There has been changes in businesses. The Industrial Relation Code also reduces compliance burdens for employers by allowing digital submissions of labor-related documents and reports, creating a single uniform legal framework instead of multiple overlapping labor laws, encouraging conciliation and arbitration. This is the way to make it more decentralized. This measure simplifies industrial relation management and reduces legal uncertainty and promote ease of doing businesses. That concludes the key provisions from an employer perspective. Now that we have covered both worker and employer, let's move on to analyze the overall impact of these changes. Kunal will guide us through this discussion.
Okay, Soumya, can you explain how workers are affected and can you elaborate how these things will affect industries also?
Okay, so from workers' point of view, like from the workers' perspective, first thing is about their job security. That is one of the biggest concern for workers because the assurance for their employment is stable and they don't be laid off unexpectedly. The new code introduces that some positive changes are there, but also this raises some concern. First thing is fixed term employment benefits. Earlier, fixed term employees didn't always receive the same benefits as permanent employees. Now they are entitled to social security benefits such as provident fund, gratuity, and medical insurance. This is a positive step because it ensures that short term workers weren't left without protections. Concerns about job stability is that while fixed term employees receive benefits, their contract can be easily ended once their team expires. This means that they may not have a long-term job security like permanent employees. Some companies might hire more workers on fixed term contracts than offering permanent position, which could lead to a higher turnover rate and less stable employment opportunities for the workers. This leads to increase the retrenchment threshold. Like previously, companies with 100 or more employees need government approval before laying off. Now, this threshold has been led to 300 employees, meaning more companies can lay off employees without seeking the government permission. This benefits businesses by making retrenchment easier and more flexible. But it also raises concern about the workers that working in a small and mid-sized companies could be laid off without safeguards. Second thing is workers' right, and which is related to the unions. Like trade unions have traditionally have been a powerful tool for the workers to negotiate fair wages, safe conditions, and job security. This new code introduces changes to trade union recognition and strike which has both advantage and challenges. Simplified trade union recognition is a single trade union will be recognized for negotiation if it has 51% worker support. If no union meets this, a negotiation council is formed, as I told earlier, including unions with 20% at least support. Second is a thing is there are different challenges with smaller unions. Like the majority 51% makes it harder for the smaller unions to make recognition. If a large union dominates, then the minority workers concerned may not be fully represented. Stricter striker rules, like workers must give a 60-day notice period before striking, even in private industries. Now, coming to the grievance redressal. A major improvement in the code is the stronger grievance redressal system, which aims to ensure fair and faster dispute resolution for the workers. Here, what have changed in this? First thing is improved industrial tribunal system. Earlier, disputes were handled by single member labor courts. Now they will be decided by a two-member industrial tribunal. This means that more balanced decision making and faster resolution of disputes. Second change is conciliation process to avoid strikes. The court promotes conciliation, a process where workers and employees try to reach settlement before going to court. This can help to resolve the issue without lengthy legal battles and reduce financial strain on workers. Third point is stronger workspace regulation for larger companies. Companies with more than 300 employees must have a clear standing orders that define employment terms, misconduct policies, and grievance procedures. Having these defined policies make it easier for workers to understand their right and seek justice if they mistreated. This expanded version keeps this ways clear for the industry relation code that impact workers, from job security to trade unions and different types of redressal. While the reforms provide some benefits, they also introduce new challenges for the workers.
Okay,
Now let
Pranav. So, can you explain how employer perspective will help in doing business in ease or hiring flexibility or something like potential concern for employers? Can you explain in brief how all these things will help in businesses?
Yes, Kunal. So, one of the key objectives of Industrial Relation Code was to make compliance easier for businesses. So, here are the ways which how it helps. There are three different labor laws into one, which reduces the paperwork and regulatory complexity. Digital submissions of compliance documents have saved time sources for businesses. The higher threshold for standing orders of 300 plus workers means the smaller companies have fewer legal burdens, allowing them to operate with greater flexibility. These changes improve India's ranking in ease of doing business and attract more investment, especially in manufacturing and industrial sectors. Hiring flexibility is very important. The code provides businesses with more flexibility in workforce and management. The introduction of fixed term employment allows companies to hire for specific duration without the complexity of permanent employment. Companies with less than 300 employees can hire and fire workers without government approval, making it easier operation based on demand. The new dispute resolution mechanism reduced legal battles which previously discouraged companies from expanding. This flexibility make it uh, easier for businesses to adapt to economic changes and remain competitive. Despite these changes, some challenges remain, which we need to discuss. While fixed term employment helps businesses, frequent layoff might impact workers and morale. The mandatory 6 day strike notice may cause tensions if workers feel their bargaining power is restricted. Larger companies still face compliance requirements, and there is uncertainty about whether the government will further increase this threshold or not. That covers the employer's perspective. Now we need to understand like how governments and economy work overall. Now can you Kunal explain this properly, like how government plays the role in economic growth?
Okay, so I can explain that thing how government and economy work together. So, role in economic growth is the industrial lesson code plays a crucial role in shaping Indian's economic future. Your house, so by simplifying labor laws and reducing compliance burdens, the government aimed to attract more domestic and foreign investments, Increased hiring flexibility encourages industries to expand operations, leading to job creation and economic growth. A more structured dispute resolution system reduces disruption, ensuring industrial stability and sustained production. Overall, these changes align with Indian goals of becoming a global manufacturing hub under the Make in India initiative. So now things come up how industrial stability and worker employer balance. So the code attempts to strike a balance between worker protection and business flexibility. The conciliation process and industrial tribunals aim to reduce the frequency of industrial strikes. The mandatory notice period for strikes ensure the business have time to negotiate and plan minimizing economic disruption. However, labor unions argue that some restrictions on strikes could reduce workers' bargaining power, potentially leading to dissatisfaction. Maintaining industrial harmony is crucial for long term economic stability. And the success of this code depends on how well both workers and employers adapt to these changes. So my final thought and future considerations will be like while the industrial relation code introduces much needed reforms, its long-term impact depends on how effectively it is implemented. The government needs to ensure some points like a balance between worker rights and business needs to avoid labor unrest, proper monitoring and enforcement of worker protections, especially for fixed term employees, continued engagement with industries and trade union to refine policies if needed. Overall, the code is a step towards modernizing India's labor law, but its success will depend on how well industries, worker, and the government collaborate in the coming year. So that's a wrap up of our impact analysis. We have explored how this code affects workers, employers, and the overall economy. Now we are moving to our final the impact of the industrial lesson code. Let's move on that discussing that challenge.
Okay, so there are so in the discussion part, first thing is there how many challenges are for workers. So one of the biggest concern for workers is the job security that I have mentioned also. Like many different companies have more flexibility in hiring and termination. Workers, especially those in small and medium enterprises, face increased uncertainty. So the main 3 points are fixed term employment, which means that while it ensures benefits during the employment, workers don't get retained compensation if their contracts are not renewed. Second thing is strikes and protests. The 60-day notice period may be weakened for the bargaining power for the workers, but making it harder to protest against unfair practices. And the third last point is union recognition, like smaller trade unions might lose influence due to the 51% membership rule, reducing their ability to negotiate effectively. So, Kunal, can you tell me what are the different government policies that have considered under this?
So there is some government policies that faces implementation challenges like enforcement of worker protection, ensuring that companies follow fair labor practices without excessive government intervention will require a strong monitoring mechanism, educating businesses and workers. Many small businesses and workers lack awareness about the new provision, making proper training and guidance potential. Can you explain how workers can adapt this thing?
Workers can take proactive steps to safeguard their rights and adapt the new code by improving different types of skill development and upcycling their skills. Like with the fixed term employment becoming common, they should focus on acquiring new skills to remain competitive in the market. Second is strengthening trade unions, where workers should engage more activity in trade unions and collectively bargaining efforts to ensure fair treatment and awareness and legal knowledge of the mechanism and labor rights that is going in the market. The worker should must protect themselves from the unfair practices. The last thing I want to hear from you, like how a business can adopt this type of things, and what are the different types of strategies that should be adjusted in this.
Okay, so employer should also make strategic adjustment to benefit from the code while ensuring fair labor practices, clear workforce planning. Companies should develop structured hiring policies to balance flexibility with worker retention. A strong HR and compliance team that make business must train HR professionals to effectively implement new code and handle disputes efficiently. Keeping employees informed about workplace policies, standing orders, and dispute resolution mechanism will build trust and prevent conflicts.
Okay, so that's all. That wrap up our discussion on challenges and different types of solution in the industrial dispute law. While the industrial relation code brings significant changes, its success depends on how well business workers and the government adapt it. By staying informed, collaborating, and refining policies when needed, we can create a labor system that benefits everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. As we conclude, let's summarize the key insights from our discussion on the industrial relation code continuity. So the purpose and key objective is the code was introduced to simplify labor law, providing flexibility to implement and improve dispute resolution mechanism. It's aimed to strike a balance between worker protection and business needs. Key provision may be that not maybe like it's trade union and worker rights, new recognition criteria, 51% rule, mandatory 60 days strike notice, and improved dispute resolution. Some standing orders for 300 plus employee flexibilities in hiring and termination and compliance simplification. Challenges and solution can be job security concern, compilation difficulties for business, inconsistent state level implementation. Improvement can be lowering the standing order threshold, strengthening worker protection, making strike rules more flexible, and launching awareness campaign. So this conclusion provides a strong wrap up and key takeaway next way. Okay, and as we move forward, staying informed and engaged with these changes will help create a more stable and productive industrial environment. Thank you all for your time and valuable insights. Thank you.
Thank you.